get the recording going. You guys have heard me mention Gail's name so many times, and some of you have actually worked with her personally. I actually just got a comment, Gail, from someone who said they worked with you a decade ago that I had completely forgotten. And I'm sure I passed the contact along, but so you have some people that have been with you for a while, including myself. So we sent your bio out. Everyone has that. I'm going to encourage everyone to drop questions in the chat as we go, as things come to you. There's nothing too weird or too whatever to ask, you know, so ask away while we have Gail here. And let's just start, Gail, by kind of describing what energy medicine is, because I know that I used to just call Reiki and energy medicine the same thing, and they're not. That's just like one little tiny arm of energy medicine as a whole, correct?
Right. And energy medicine, the definition of it is expanding more every day because there are so many different modalities that uses energy. So the energy medicine that I've been immersed in for the last 15 years has been Eden energy medicine in particular. And it works more in the physical realm of things and manipulating the energy fields that surround our body and go through our body, such as our meridians and our chakras, our aura, all of those different systems. And it's the electromagnetic properties of those systems, which is why we can manipulate them and move that energy around with our little electromagnetic hands. And just as a comparison in Reiki, it's more of a thought field projection of the energy versus movement.
Okay.
Because in Reiki, we don't tell the energy where to go. We just are the channel to bring the energy to the person or to ourselves. And then the energy goes where it's supposed to go because it's smarter than us. But in energy medicine, we manipulate, we move that energy from one place to another. We open up the blockages that are present and restore that vital energy flow back to the organs and the systems and the chakras and everything else.
So one of the things that I love about you and so admire about you, and I think lends itself to your credibility, because in any industry, there's people at all sides of the spectrum, right? And I consider you like one of the most credible people in this industry, but you have this whole traditional medicine side to you. And I just heard right before we turned the recording on and you guys came in here, I knew it had been for a while. And just so you all know, I don't think I disclosed this, I met Gail through my mom because both of you worked at the Mayo Clinic where I grew up in Minnesota. So Gail was working at Mayo Clinic when I met her, but you have 50 years in traditional medicine. And you've officially closed that door, but you have this beautiful complement. So you clearly knew from a young age that you wanted to be in a healing kind of space. When did you start realizing that traditional medicine maybe wasn't quite the right fit, or like, how did you combine these two things?
It took a while for me to figure that bit out because I had my own healing to do. And as I healed more through life, then it became apparent that it wasn't just about medicine and pills and procedures that made people well. I was discovering that there was more. There was a spiritual component to life as I grew into my own self. So I was very much an adult, well into my adult years when I figured this out. Probably in the late 80s, which probably half of you weren't even born then, but that's about when I figured it out and pursuing higher education. And as I pursued higher education into master's degree and nurse practitioner and such, I was open to more and more opportunities. And that's when I started to integrate holistic healing in my practice. And when I became a nurse practitioner in '96, that's when I really started using it a lot and referring all my patients to holistic therapists and Reiki masters and such instead of just handing out drugs.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a means to get formally educated in those realms at the time. So I just referred everybody until I was able to fully get certified, and just read books about things until that point.
Yeah. And how do you, when you speak to those two things complementing each other, because I do think it's important that you have the credibility in both areas. How do you explain to someone how they do work together, and where does the line stop? I'm sure that's really hard to maybe describe, but like, where's the line stop from traditional medicine to holistic healing or energy medicine? How do you resolve that?
There's no line. There shouldn't be a line. It should be together.
Mhm.
Everybody who has a health issue at any level should always have some kind of holistic, energetic, spiritual cares in addition to whatever medical cares that they pursue. Because the line is that medicine doesn't recognize the other half of us, which is the mind and the spirit. Um, and it only recognizes that physical part because of the nature of who medicine is. And I'm not criticizing, it's just the way it is. We need medicine, we need antibiotics, we need surgeons, we need, people to help us get well. But the problem within the medical field is that recognizing that there is a body, mind, and soul and spirit in a holistic way has been a very long and difficult road to make everyone understand that. Now, many strides are being made, and many advances are being made in this area, which I'm so happy about through the years. But they go together, they complement one another. There isn't anything that anyone can do energetically to complicate anything that's being done medically.
Yeah, yeah.
There just are no side effects because it's caring for a different side of our being in a different way. And it often helps the medicine work better. It often helps all of the physical symptoms to go away faster. People heal tremendously when they're combining all aspects of themselves and not just one segment.
Mm-hmm.
If you, even if, like, let's just say you had your toe half amputated and you came to me to try to fix it energetically, I'm going to go,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can help you with the pain, I can help you with how you feel about halfway losing your toe, but I'm not going to be able to reattach the toe and
Yeah.
like walk with that foot again. So we have to come together and realize the benefits of both.
I think that that's really obvious for emergency type things when we're speaking to chronic or even like autoimmune diseases or things like that. How would you, and again, I know this is kind of hard to talk in generalities, but how would you help someone discern when, okay, you've exhausted traditional medicine options, you might want to look at and the energy medicine side of things or other holistic measures? Is there some cues or some steps there?
I would say to anyone with any chronic illness that it goes beyond just a physical thing. There is usually energetic imbalances with any of those chronic illnesses that take place, all of the autoimmune issues, diabetes, asthmas, all of those things, chronic pain syndromes, because it's about the energy flows. And when energy does not have the ability to travel through our body to the places it needs to go, then we start getting symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And what blocks that energy flow is stress. Stress of our environment and the toxins within our environment and the stressors that we encounter in our daily lives create these blockages of energetic flow. And when the flow has stopped for long enough, physical symptoms start to develop.
Mm-hmm.
So at the basis of every chronic illness, the source actually truly begins with a stress response. And this is documented physiologically, pathologically through all time, that stress response initiates a whole cascade of nasty things to happen to our bodies. And if it doesn't get reversed, then symptoms produce. And in in the world of medicine, we don't look at the energetic properties of what's triggering the stress response to open that up to prevent getting to the point of having physical symptoms yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to bring that forward, that anyone with any chronic illness at all, there's energetic imbalances. And from my experience, every single person who's come into my practice who has a chronic illness, I can say that out of 9 of their energy systems, 9 of them have irregularities.
Oh, wow.
They do, because one leads to another, to another, to another, because we're all connected, so intra-connected.
Yeah.
And over time, it just keeps going down the line, and the next pipe gets blocked, the next one, the next one, the next one, the next energetic flow. So I spend a lot of time in getting people back into balance and just opening up energetic flow, and amazing, they feel so much better because now there's energy going where it's not been there for a long time.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, unless they have you keeping them open on a recurring session basis, you'd still need to figure out what's causing the blockage in the first place? And is that, how does emotion or maybe trauma, or, you know, then we get into stuff in karma, like what blocks it up in the first place?
Right. And everybody has their own unique identifier. And I don't go looking for the cause right away. What I look for is where's the energy flowing and where is it not? Mm-hmm. And when it gets opened, and then the next time that I see the person, if it's blocked again in another area or the same area, it leads to clues as to what's going on. And the person's story, again, their history tells really what it was that started it all off most of the time. Mm-hmm. You know, a trauma, an injury, something that's happened to them along the lines, a bad illness or something, but their body, their energies tell us where's the problem lying. And the main goal is to reverse the blockage, open it up, let that energy flow through so then the body can heal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the next place I want to go with healers and other people that are in the space that do similar work that you do, what might be some red flags to look for if people were hiring, and so many people have worked with you and will probably just work with you, but let's say people had other options on the table. I know I've met some people in this space where I kind of have a little red flag and I'm like, I don't think that this feels quite like they have the best intentions. Yeah. And I don't mean this, I don't bring this up to create any judgment or be hateful towards anything, but I really want people to know how to find credible healers. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and it's a challenge for everyone. One thing that helps is word of mouth. And who do you know who's getting integrative healing done, or complementary healing, or energy medicine healing, or any type of healing? Who do you know that's having it done, and what do they have to say about it? How has it helped them? And then you can always check out that individual. I say always have a contact with someone, have a discussion with them, and see how you feel about them when you talk with them. Because if that little red flag goes off, no, stay away. You have to listen with your heart and let your head just take a back seat. And if your heart starts cramping up on you when you're speaking to someone, that's not the person that you want to entrust yourself with. So you'll get an idea of who's going to be credible for you. There are also organizations that many of us belong to who are credible, that support us because we maintain certifications, we maintain continuing educations, such as in Eden Energy Medicine, Inner Source is the name of the company. I'm certified through them. I maintain my certification. I have to have continuing education hours. I have to have my insurance. and all of those things that makes me a credible practitioner, they support that. So you look for people who are educated through organizations that support that type of knowledge and quality. Then there are others that, because I don't want to sell short, there are other, like my shamanic practice. I've studied with shamans all over the world, and there's no school for that.
Yeah.
So, you know, but that's another area where you're going to want to talk with people and get recommendations to find out who is the person who does the shamanic healing that does it well. And, you know, so there's a lot of little ways, but it's talk to others. Don't just trust an internet connection, and then talk with the person you want to work with.
I can't say I've personally been in this specific situation, but I know of people who have gotten into relationships with healers where it's become very dependent, and the healer has sort of, oh, you need me, and it's this very codependent kind of thing. And to me, that's a huge red flag. And what I so appreciate about the work, and those of you that have worked with Gail, you know this, you've never ever had an air of like, you need me, or like this can't be fixed on your own. I mean, your job is to empower us to be able to kind of do some of this ourselves, but you're a great shortcut and you're an expert, you know?
Yeah, everyone should be empowered to care for themselves. There are some things you can't do for yourself, and that's why you need a practitioner to help you with. And you need to learn from someone how to empower yourself. So with every session that I do, you go away with homework that you learn how to continue those energy flows, to continue to help yourself heal. And you can do this for yourself, and no one should make you codependent upon them for anything. And because, you know, you're your own person and you have to follow your own heart. And we can heal ourselves. But if we've got someone telling us we can't, then how much are we healing? You know, if I say you need me, how much do you feel that you need yourself? And being in this world is that we have to trust ourselves. We have to have faith in ourselves and confidence and care enough about ourselves to care for us.
I love that. And you guys, just a reminder for some who joined late, if you have any questions related to anything that we're talking about, type them in. Most of the time, Gail, I find with our experts, they're so busy taking notes that we don't get too many questions. So that's not a reflection of anything. But bottom line in this, and then we'll move on to something else. If you work with anyone, there's no way they can screw you up. If like they're in energy, is there anything that, like, you know, worst case scenario, you're just out some money and some time?
As far as energy work goes, basically, yes.
Okay.
The worst side effects anybody usually gets is they get a little nauseated and a headache because there's a lot of energy rushing through them that, you know, needs to be released. So it's not like there's a overdose of it, or, you know, allergic reaction from a side effect or anything like that. So it's different than traditional medicine side effects and complications. Now, the problem I will say about this is if you have someone who doesn't do the work properly, you're not going to feel well, and you may have more processing side effect type things like of the nausea and the headaches, and your imbalances will maybe get worse. So, you know, that can happen from someone who is irresponsible with how they practice. People who are responsible will always guide everybody to be alert for the side effects of processing. And there's always an effect. I mean, if you move energy to an area where there's never been energy there for 5 years, you're going to have some weird feelings going on, and it's going to feel strange. But to be prepared for those normal occurrences is important.
Yeah, yeah. And before I read out Samantha's question for those that watch the recording, they can't see the chat. I think it's important to speak to not every session do you feel something, right? Like feel, you might, you know, and I've worked with you for over a decade, years, and sometimes, yeah, oh, I feel it and I can feel it in certain places, whatever. But sometimes we have a session and I'm just relaxed. I can't, it's as if nothing happened. And that doesn't mean it didn't work or you know, something didn't happen. And that's kind of the trust factor or the faith factor to this work. Is that, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, we don't always feel the energy moving, and there's, you know, the body is wise. There's reasons for that. But we don't always feel energy movement. And a lot of people never feel energy moving around them. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it's not moving. It is. But it is knowing that you may or you may not feel the shifts.
Mm-hmm. So Samantha asks, are there times when you shouldn't be seeking out energy work? And then the second question is, do you have to have a specific issue you're dealing with, or can you approach it from an overall place of wanting to improve health?
Okay. First part, anytime when you shouldn't seek out energy work. No, I don't think that there's any time that I can think of that I wouldn't say that I would say that it was not helpful to have. The precautions I will say though is if someone is suicidal or homicidal, those people have to be seen by the qualified medical people. I mean, that's very, very important. I mean, the health is very important. So if it's a depression issue, I'd be certain that there's no suicidal thoughts. And there have been some, and I certainly got them referred immediately into a counselor, because that requires also some special professional help. It's beyond my scope. I'm not a psychologist. So I do have to know that when someone presents with a medical issue that requires medical care, I don't hesitate to refer them. Would they still benefit from the energy healing? Yes, but as long as they are taking the traditional course of therapy also, so that they're not a danger to themselves or others. So you have to be smart about that. But I would not just treat somebody alone in that regard. They would get the referral in. So I'm looking for that second half of that question. I forgot what it was already. Specific. Oh, you can always just come for general wellness, and prevention and tune-ups, just to like, well, I just want to feel better. I know that there's something more for me. I don't know what, but I just want to feel better. And I do a lot of that. And a lot of people just want to come every month just to keep that going, because their lives are such that they don't always, not always able to do their daily homework to help keep themselves feeling better. And it's sort of like, you know, going for a massage every month, or, you know, getting a manicure, pedicure, or facial. It's self-care.
Yeah. And I would say, just for the record, so you all know how I use Gail, I think anytime I've had a major injury, which is just not very many times, I've come to you just as an additional complement to, you know, what I need to take care of. Like when my foot was burned, I came to you. And then I know when I do a big inner child clearing or hit on a really big thing that I shifted some of my own energy or released some blockages, I always come to you, because I feel like there might be some other stuff in there that I know I just can't get at. And then I can tell, and some of you that have worked with Gail, you know, I've said this to you, I can tell when I get sort of like full or dusty. It's like everything kind of locks up and I'm like, yeah, I need a tune up. And that's just more of a discernment of my own intuition. So those are the 3 times that I use Gail.
And that's, you know, really pretty much most people follow that, and they listen to how they're feeling. I like the word dusty, and I use that phrase a lot. Or I dusted off your chakras today, you know, because that's what they needed. They just needed a dusting, a little house cleaning and maintenance. Yeah.
Robin asked, do you know about the Kinergy energy workouts, and do you recommend that as a regular practice?
I don't know much about Kinergy workouts, but I will say this, that if it is something that you like and you feel good when you do it, go for it. You have to trust yourself and trust your heart and listen to what your heart is telling you about this, because there are so many different modalities of energetic healing, um, that they're all good.
Yeah.
I don't know of any of them that are bad, but they're not right for everyone. So just listen to your heart, and if it feels good, you've got a good plan.
Yeah. Um, oh, the question just lost me. I'm going to pivot this way and that might come back. It was kind of in this bucket of stuff. I want to talk about your journey of unfolding into this, because so many of the business owners that are in here, and they wouldn't be in this group if they weren't meant to sort of walk a more conscious spiritual path in business. We talk so much about intuition and letting go of relying so much on outside research and outside data. Not that we shouldn't have that, that's important, but relying and going inward and trusting that we have the answers. And so I want to talk just like your unfoldment as a business owner with your practice. Can you speak a little bit about like the stages of moving into this? Of course, you know, you start with certifications and reading and books, but when do you know that you need to kind of close the books and just be in it and just learn through doing, like kind of we were talking about before we hit the recording?
Yes, and that's, about trusting yourself, and learning how to trust yourself, and knowing that, we do have the answers right in, I don't know if you can see, I'm tapping my heart. I mean, this is our center for life, and it's our spiritual center, and it's how we connect to that higher spirit. And if we just stop and give ourselves some silence during the day to listen to what's being told to us through this heart and through spirit, or our guides or our angels, and just be open to it, we're going to hear those messages, and they will tell us when we are ready. And then it's a matter of trusting what you hear and not doubting it, and letting those old tapes that you were fed your whole life about not being smart enough or not good enough and not enough of whatever's, to let go of those tapes and trust what the heart says, because it's this ego that gets us into trouble. And this is what stops us from hearing those heart messages, those spirit messages, and from trusting. And I've experienced this so many times in my life. And the most recent one was when I retired from medicine. I knew I wanted to retire for about 5 years, but I didn't trust myself enough to be able to make it on my own. And I thought, well, no, I'm too accustomed to having this salary from Mayo Clinic, and I don't think I can make it. How am I going to do this? Rochester is a smaller area. I don't have a lot of clients. How am I going to survive? So I doubted myself, and I thought of 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't retire from medicine and just do energy work full time. And then I finally stepped out of my ego for a few minutes, and I heard Archangel Michael, who's my guardian angel. I heard him say, "You need to do this. You'll be fine." And I've always trusted everything he's ever told me, because he saved my life so many times. So I'm like, okay, so when am I going to do this? And so then I struggled with when. And so for 5 years, I wiggled with that. And it wasn't until a year ago now, I started getting even more desperate to be in energy all the time. I felt this compelling need to be here stronger and stronger. And I thought, okay, so I'll just do this the end of the year. January 1st, will be the end of it, 2020, right? And then I struggled because I had some things I wanted to do energetically, and my work at the hospital was interfering. And all of a sudden I heard Michael say, just 2 words, September 3rd. And I went, what? September 3rd. And I knew that that was the date that I needed to retire instead of January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So I trusted that,
Yeah.
and everything has been absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we keep learning. I mean, you never stop learning about how to listen. It's a
Yeah.
lifelong journey. I mean, as long as we walk this earth, we're going to have lessons to learn.
Yeah. I think that's such a great story to bring up because I've been through several pivot points in my career where I've had to close one door and start fresh. And me coming back, or I guess more so owning coaching and the work that I've now done over the past few years and will continue to do was a really big leap for me because it felt very esoteric and intangible, and it wasn't quite business coaching, but there was something deeper intuitively, and it was a big leap of faith to close the door on the more kind of practical things that I had known and I had had success in. And so I'm glad to hear you speak to that because we all go through that as business owners and we all have our doubts.
Absolutely. And the doubts come from little brain, okay? Little brain knows nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's intelligence and it has lots of book smarts, but it doesn't get us through life because the lessons that we learn is what makes us successful.
Mm-hmm.
So listening, and we'll always learn. Yeah.
Do you ever get nervous with new clients or a new situation? Do you still have a little bit of nerves? Like, I don't know if I'm going to be of value, or do you have any of that self-talk at this point? Or have you
Oh,
found?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm human.
Yeah. See, good. That's what I want people to hear.
I'm human. And I'm struggling with an issue right now, and I'm doubting myself. And I'm like, but you've done something similar to this before, so why are you doubting yourself on this aspect of it? And and so yeah, that ego just keeps, it's relentless in its efforts to get your attention. This little 2-year-old inside banging, saying, pay attention to me, and I'm like, no, no, no. But yeah, so I do still struggle when I venture with something new, little ego, little brain gets in the way. And then I have to meditate. I have to be in silence. I go out in my garden. I work with nature, and that's where I really I hear my messages so strongly when I'm in nature. And if I can't be outside, I sit in my bedroom window and I look out at my blue spruce tree because that's my spiritual connection. And I listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can shut this off up here and go into heart and trust. And I
Yeah.
might still be scared, but I trust enough to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it your goal not to necessarily eradicate the ego, which I think is impossible? But so many of us strive to, like, there's a kind of perfectionism sometimes that can happen with self-work where we want to eradicate these thoughts, and that's not really what we're here to do.
No, no. We
Yeah.
need our ego. We do need our ego. But what we don't need from the ego is it feeding us negativity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to discern that. And then when it's always telling you something that's not, it's why I say, if something doesn't have love as its basis, it's ego driven.
Mm-hmm.
Because ego doesn't know much about love. It just knows about criticism and the other side of things, and the what ifs, the big old what if. That's
Mm-hmm.
ego. So if it's got that stuff in there, then that's not coming from heart. So if it's not love based, I really try to push it quiet.
Yeah. I would say that in different language within this group, impact motivations versus the ego motivations, service, which is a form of love when it comes to building a business. And we talk a lot in this group, and this is where I would love for you to speak to next about, as you progress on this journey and as you start to unfold kind of deeper into yourself and trusting yourself and opening up to possibility and connecting with intuition, motivations that are maybe worked in the past, so motivations to make money or motivations to hit certain milestones, kind of start to stop working. And I've experienced that on my path. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that it's kind of beneath you. Those motivations are shallow at this point in your evolution of who you are and where you're at. But impact and service is kind of the most expansive, powerful motivation you could channel. So instead of asking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make money? How am I going to get this to 100 people and get all these conversions? Returning to a mindset of, how can I make this the most impactful e-course ever? Or how can I make this, expand into more help in this area, or improve it in a way where people have a better experience? Do you have a synonymous way to put that?
Yeah, and I love how you phrase that, because what you did was you just described the higher self functioning from a higher level of spiritual attunement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
As we evolve as a spiritual being, we realize that that other set, that dynamic you said that we don't use anymore, the how much, the whatevers, is not important, because that's ego driven and that's about me. Where when you transcend and you start to become a higher spiritual individual and recognizing that there's more than being in that crazy rat race, you evolve into a higher spiritual being, and then it becomes service oriented, because service oriented is about others and compassion and the collective versus the me.
Yeah.
And that is all love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all we have is love.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And the more that we utilize a love-based, a spiritual-based, a compassion-based, a collective-based look towards what we're doing in this world, we're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's our mission when we decided to come back here.
Successful, and I would argue, and supported.
Absolutely supported.
Yeah.
By huge communities of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's more and more and more people, as we call in my realm, awakening to the ideal that it's not just about me, but it's about how can I make a difference in this world.
Mm-hmm. So you're familiar with a little bit of the work that I do. Some of the nuances I get into that are a pretty common pattern with my clients are money mindset challenges, some just kind of disruptive or unnecessary narratives around money that are not serving them, and releasing those. And then also wanting to be a good person versus, avoiding being a bad person, which is a very common narrative, I think, among a lot of us. And that was a big one that was in my identity, was I'm a bad person, so let's strive and be perfect and do everything we can to be a good person. So as we're kind of working through these mindset narratives, because I do believe it directly relates to the abundance in our business, can you tie together how energy work or anything that you do might be helpful to move through that and release some of those narratives or those blocks that we might have?
Yeah, because that all stems from the energy that's stuck, and what parts of the body are being fed the proper amounts of energy and what parts are not. And so usually it's, the chakras really are important in keeping them clear and moving that energy and communicating with each of them, because that's where all of that success comes from. And it comes from the collective view, the worldview that you are accomplishing with your business, Shauna, and trying to help others. When we have when the chakras are closed down and they're not communicating and they're full of old stories and old junk, that's all we can remember is the old junk, you can't bring in the good. Mm-hmm. You can't make the changes, even though you might be willing to. You just physically can't, emotionally can't, spiritually can't, because the energy is not there.
Yeah.
So we open the chakras, we do a clearing of the chakras, and all of a sudden they've got the energy that's stimulating all those beautiful things that's within each of us, and it now can come forward in a
Yeah.
very positive way.
So a good indicator would be, you've maybe unearthed the subconscious understanding, maybe even the source of, oh, there's the belief and there's where it started. And yeah, so you pieced it together, you've hit the core of it. But then there's resistance to actually maybe taking the new action or the different behaviors or the different habits. There's resistance or friction in stepping into it. There's no more digging and excavation to do. That might be a good time to maybe then do some energy chakra clearing.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then still there's always energy creates behavior patterns, just like emotional things create behavior patterns. And we might clear everything out and get the chakras open and free everything for you. But if there's still some kind of something that puts you back into an old tape, it's going to take you down that behavior pattern that you've had for so long. And then the work that you just did isn't going to be effective for you in making those changes. So something is stopping you from making that commitment to yourself. And it's usually the self-doubt and the self-worth that is in jeopardy at that time. So switch gears and let's work on self-worth and creating that beautiful environment for you, because everybody is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what I was going to ask earlier, and it's kind of related to this. I know the first few times I worked with you, I think we were on the phone in the very beginning, and now you just kind of do your thing and send a report. And it's kind of addicting. Like I remember reading through the report and seeing all these things that have been released or cleared or cords that are cut. And you're like, well, I want you to do all of it. Like, get me perfect, How do you speak to that? Because, now over the years, I'm like, no, it's not about getting everything out. And I've asked you this question before and you had such a beautiful answer, but it's not about like getting everything out. That's not how we should approach this work.
No, because we're on a journey.
Yeah.
We're on a journey of learning lessons. And when the time is right, we'll get the next lesson, and then we get the next lesson and we learn from it. There's no way we can process every single thing at one time, because I love to say this is because we're, like Shrek said, we are like onions. We have layers, many layers from lifetimes that are with us. And then the more we become awake and conscious of who we are, the more that from our past life, we can also clear and heal so that these issues don't continue to be popping back up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on a journey, and we don't perfect the journey usually in our lifetime. That's why we come back time after time after time and after time to get it, and that's okay.
Have you seen a pattern in the progression of healing? And I'll put it the way that I feel like I've sensed it. It feels like you got to start with just yourself. So if you have the narrative or there's some stuff stuck around, I'm a bad person, let's say that, it's going to be hard for you to serve out here until you take care of yourself first. So to me, it's sort of heal your relationship with self, heal your relationship with others, heal your relationship with world, heal your relationship with God, source, whatever. To me, it seems it's unfolded into those deeper dimensions that way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, 100%. You have to start with yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't care about yourself and start working on yourself, you'll never get anywhere else. Mm-hmm. You won't make any impact in anything. You won't help anyone else because you're not healthy yourself. And maybe I still have some problems, but my heart is still in the right place. And I still know that I have self-value. But being human, I'm going to doubt myself on and off. Mm-hmm. But overall, I know I'm worth it now that I've healed. And I know this is how everyone succeeds, is to have good self-confidence in that you you already have everything that you need to survive in this world and to have the abundances that you desire and reach the goals that you want. But it's breaking through the outside barriers to let you see that worth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're ready to do the work, and when you're ready to look at what's in here and accept yourself and forgive yourself because you really have done no wrong,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
forgive everything else, then that's when you start to say, hey, you know, I guess I like myself. I'm not so bad after all.
Yeah.
And then things just magically happen.
Yeah. And I think that relates. Let me give you a really specific example to wrap around that from your perspective. When we talk about things like compassion and love and service and others, I know the hang up in the conversation wants to come back to, but this toxic person or this person who hurt me. And I know my past pattern has been to try to take the high road so quickly, like tolerance and understanding, oh, they just had a bad childhood, or they're just, I understand it, so therefore I'll just take it. And so I think it can get confusing for us. And I'd love for you to provide some talking points to this around, okay, we should be loving kindness and compassion to people when they're hurting us. And it can get really confusing with setting boundaries, I think. Do you get what I'm asking?
Yes, yes, yes. So it's a fine line between being your own person and being codependent.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say, yeah, I'm going to be compassionate to this person because he's telling me or she's telling me these bad things, and I know they're having a bad day, so I should be compassionate and just let them do it. Well, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
If they're violating my heart, I'm not going to put up with it. I'm going to speak my mind and say, you know, maybe you're having a bad day, but I don't need to take that garbage from you because I'm done with that in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk away from it. And if they don't learn from that lesson, then that's their issue. It's not mine. I will not take abuse any longer because I did for half of my life or longer. And I will not be a victim any longer for it. I won't tolerate it. And no one else should either.
Yeah.
If the situation is abusive, you need to step away
Mm-hmm.
and know you've done the right thing and know that you can do it and you can survive and be who you want to, who you know you are.
See, I love that you put that and you spoke so bluntly. Well, I don't think it was that blunt. I thought it was just very truthful. But I love that you said that, because I think some of us, in our inside want to be like, but that's hurtful, or I'm going to hurt their feeling, but I should just be more understanding, or maybe I can repair this by just loving them. And it's hard. It's hard to set boundaries.
It is. And, you know, we all have relationships with many people in our lives. And it's not easy for me as a family member or someone in a relationship to say, you know, I see that you're struggling with this, and this is, you know, something you're going to have to work out, and you're not dragging me down with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to put that distance in there in order to keep my heart energy from being compromised. And I don't feel bad about it because I'm doing it with love, because at the same time, I'm saying, I send you love, I send you compassion, but I'm not going to do the work for you.
Yeah.
I got my own work to do.
Yeah.
So it's getting easier and easier for me to say, well, you know, this is your journey. I bless your journey and I wish you well. And I will, you know, if there's something I can do to help you, but don't drag me down.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's excellent to hear from someone like you in the work that you do, because I think sometimes we can get caught up into whatever we think the Dalai Lama is, or anyone who's at the higher echelons of consciousness, and think we have to just be loving towards everyone. And I think that drives a dysfunctional form of perfectionism, and it's just the wrong place to be coming from. But it's so easy to get swept up into that. You read about it constantly in self-help books.
Right, right. And that part, when you don't stand firm and have your own self come forward, then that's ego again driving you back into codependency, and that you're not good enough if you don't just take it. You
Yeah.
know, we don't need to take it anymore.
Yeah, I'm glad we touched on that. So Samantha has a question. We have our last kind of 10 minutes, just less than that, with Gail here. So if any of you have any questions you want to drop in before we close out. Samantha's question is, how does a potential client know which of your services is best for you to start with? I noticed there's a few options.
Um, well, if they're not sure, we have a conversation. I've been trying to contact people verbally and speak with them as much as possible, so I can get a sense for where they're at and what they would like to have as far as their goals go. I like to have personal relationships, and if I can do a Zoom with them, I'll do a Zoom, or at least have a phone call or a lot of emails to figure things out, so we have good communication. And if there's any questions, all you got to do is just ask, you know, what do you think? What do you want done? What are your goals? What do you feel you need?
And Samantha, I didn't read this out loud, but I don't know if you saw her comment. She's a therapist, so she appreciated your disclaimer earlier when you were talking about, you know, you refer them to a psychologist or a therapist. So
Oh, good, good,
I'm
yeah,
sure there's some people in this group,
absolutely.
and some of them are in their own service providing businesses, that will likely have clients that might be a good referral source. You'd be a good referral for their clients. So I'm glad Samantha asked that. One of the last things I want to ask you about, there's three little words that stuck out to me in your bio that I think are so crucial and they're so easy to miss. And it says that you heal through joy. And I think that that's important because as the more I've been on my journey, it's switched from this fixing what's broken of myself to seeking pleasure. And in business, I say it's, are you success focused? Or are you avoiding failure focused? And so when I read that in your bio, I thought that's really, really important that you're talking about healing through joy.
Yes.
Because again, so many of us want to come in to just, I'm broken and fix me. And it's coming from a place of, I don't want to be a bad person, versus I want to live a full life and I want pleasure. So let's get there.
Yeah, and in healing with joy is the best way to get there. Joy is pleasure. Joy brings a smile to everyone's face. It brings a smile to every cell in your body when you work with joy. Um, Joy is one of the seven highest vibrations of energy that you could bring within yourself. Love is, of course, the highest, but joy and gratitude and humility and courage and strength are all parts of that whole compromising of, or composing of the joy of us going forward with grace and peace and happiness.
Yeah. I remember a very specific point in my kind of evolution where it hit me, where I was like, there's nothing to fix. You know, like, you know, had done a certain amount of self work, and I realized how I was keeping myself in problem solving mode because I was just in the habit of fixing myself. And then I hit a different kind of stagnation. So I had grown, but then it kind of plateaued a little bit. And I realized, well, now we need to make a shift, because I have a new sense of understanding and awareness that there's nothing to fix.
Yeah.
There's nothing to like set the struggle down. There's challenges, yes, but there's no more overcoming.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you had a similar like moment in your journey, in your work or in your own personal evolution, where you kind of had that pivot yourself, where you're like, yeah, the motivation is different now.
Most definitely. And I think we all do as we grow, because we get, again, out of that ego set. When we can just get out of this ego mind, then we stop trying to fix what we think is broken. And then we realize we're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
We are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Challenges, yes, but we are perfect. We were given everything we need when we came here. But it's, do we use our tools? Do we recognize our own tools that we have at hand, instead of trying to live according to someone else's rule,
Yeah.
someone else's ideals. But live for ourselves, live for your heart, and do what this is telling you, and just keep this little girl up here or little guy up here quiet for a while.
That's the goal.
You know,
Easier said than done sometimes.
it is. It is very much easier said than done. But that's, you know, what we do. We meet a challenge and we learn a lesson.
Yeah, yeah. So one piece of homework that all of us leaving this call or listening to the recording can walk away with, something that we could do in the next 24 hours or the next week, what would you task us with?
I would task you with giving yourself 3 minutes a day with absolutely no noise around you except for maybe birds tweeting, and listen. Shut off the mind. Don't listen to the ego, and just listen to the heart and ask, what are you telling me? What are you trying to say? What are you whispering to me? Has a lot to say, but it doesn't say it as loud as this 2-year-old up here screaming. So
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Awesome.
Minimum.
Minimum, yes. Well, you'll probably want to do it more when you start channeling that. That's how it feels. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
that's always been there. I've always had these answers. Why don't I tap into this more?
Yeah.
So we have linked up your bio and your website, but do you have anything coming up or anything online that we could distribute or you want to share with anyone in the room here watching the recording?
I'm going to be doing a series of 3 classes coming up at the end of this month and the 1st of June on how we can be in more tune with our own rhythms, and how we can be more resilient and resist all this crazy stress that we're trying to adapt to. So it's about adapting to the changes that are going on. So that the title of it is Challenge of Change.
Oh, I love it.
And it's all about your elemental rhythms in your cycles of your water, your earth, your fire, metal, and wood elements, and our emotions that go along with that, and how they get triggered, and how can we balance it. So,
and that'll be virtual?
Yeah, virtual, and it's free.
Okay.
It's my gift to, I'm trying to do my part of helping others. So I'll have that. The official announcement is in the process of being put together right now.
Okay.
And when I have it, Shauna, I will send it to you, and then
Yep.
you can send it to everyone, and it's free, so you can join, and it'll be on Zoom.
That's amazing. You guys take advantage of that. I will be signing up myself. I will put when you send that to me, I'll drop the link in High Minds for Everyone, the group, and get that out to them so they can join. Gina says, this has been lovely. So much wisdom and insight. Thank you for sharing your journey. I echo that. Gail, you're such a calming force. I feel just so calm being on the call with you. I think everyone's probably walking away just like, it was lovely. It's always lovely talking to you.
Good. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Shauna, and see your smiling face. And I say this from my heart. I am truly honored, and I'm grateful to be able to share this with others, because this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, that's abundantly clear. So those of you that want to get in touch with Gail, you'll know how. And if you have any clients or customers in your own right, I've sent some of you there. So she's a great referral for probably a lot of you in this group that want to maybe complement some of your work with what Gail does. So, and Gail, you're probably more than happy to even hop on the phone with some of the business owners if they want to see what that would look like for them to refer clients to you.
Absolutely.
Best process of doing so and whatnot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Phone, email, however you want to communicate. Be happy to serve as a mentor in any way I can.
Awesome. Well, everyone have a good day. Gail, thank you again so much. I will be following up personally. And if anyone has any questions, whether you're watching the recording or live, you can just reach out. You know where to find me and us and the team, and we'll forward any questions to Gail if they come in from the recording. So everyone have a great week, and we'll say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.